Hello and welcome to Mistakes Were Made. This is a channel that I created to document my family's progress with debt reduction and eventual elimination. I very much appreciate having you here, and if you are new to our channel, welcome. Are a few things that I will go over really quickly as a way of introduction. We are a family of 2 with 8 fur family members, 4 cats, 4 dogs, no children. We are both employed, currently full-time, and the reason that this whole thing got started was an announcement at my work that they were filing for bankruptcy. If you want to get a little bit more detail kind of about where we started, with the financial numbers and a little bit more background about that, I definitely recommend checking out our debt confession video, which is the first one. If you have been with us for a little while, or this is your second or third video, welcome back. Very much appreciate you taking the time to watch and seeing what's next for us as we go through, this fun life that we are doing. So today we are doing our budget recap. We are looking at the previous budget that we just lived through, the previous pay period, so the February 1st through the 15th, and we're going to see, how did things go? Now, as I like to do, we can take a quick look at our calendar. This is where I like to document all of the inflows and outflows of our money. As a general rule, this is going to be specific to our checking account. I will note some things if we're transferring them over to savings as well, but what you won't see on here are any items that are going through our credit card unless there's something that I've missed, as far as like maybe some kind of recurring cost, because we are not using our credit cards anymore. It's just that it's not conducive to our goals, and we have essentially kind of cold turkeyed it. The most that we've done with our credit cards is taking 2 of our debts and transferring them into a new credit card that has a promo on it. But daily use or anything like that, like we used to do, not happening. If we were doing that, it would be something that I would put on here, but that's not the case. So there's not really anything new or too unexpected in here. Anything that happened that was kind of out of the norm or what we weren't expecting, we will touch on as we go through here. So here is the Budget with Me sheet that we put together previously. And the first discrepancy that we have is we were expecting to start with $3,736.66. There was a charge point cost for when my partner was charging his car. He's got an electric hybrid because he drives quite a distance to get to his work. And while they do have plug-in spaces, they are not free. So, but those costs are usually like 30 cents to maybe 60 cents at the most. So it was just a slight adjustment down. And we started, I don't know why I started with the 7, with $37.36.15. Now the cash envelopes, we were expecting to do $1,078, and that is what we did. However, we only took $1,003 out in the actual cash because, and we go over this in a previous video, we were capping the cash savings envelope at $500 in cash. So anything over that with the allotment of $185 per pay period was just going to be directly transferred into our savings rather than taking the money out in cash and putting in the envelope. But still, that whole amount is still part of the calculation. So $1,078 is still accurate. The credit cards, we did do $500, $100 for Citibank, $175 for Reflex, and $225 for Bank of America. So there is not any changes there. I did have a couple of questions about the credit card situation. So previously we had an Amazon card and a US bank card, and those two had interest. I would get charged interest every month. And we ended up finding this Wells Fargo Reflect card, which when you opened it had the opportunity to do a 0% promotional balance transfer, and I think the timeline was something like 20 months. So we took advantage of that, transferred those two cards over, paid off any remaining balance on them so that they would be zeroed out. Now, in doing that, we were previously paying $275 towards the US Bank and $200 every month towards Amazon. So $475. By moving those over to this new card, that ended up dropping the minimum payment needed. I think it ended up being $137 because, again, no interest, which, though, in this situation, they say, pay your minimums, especially while you're trying to save money. We've been paying a little bit over in each case. So we actually changed it to $175 so that we're paying just a little bit more than what the minimum would be. But in doing that, that left $300 available in the budget to adjust amongst our credit cards. And since we have a promo on our Bank of America card, and that one comes due before all the other ones, so we need to get that balance paid down as soon as possible, we decided to allocate that extra $300, kind of like the debt snowball process, to that card. Now, this isn't a true debt snowball process because, one, this particular credit card did not have the smallest balance and still currently does not have the smallest balance of the debts that we're working, and it's not a debt avalanche because I believe the avalanche is going towards the ones with the highest interest rate, or is it tackling the ones with the highest balance? I can't remember. But either way, this is a zero balance, so neither of those scenarios would apply because it's also not the credit card that has the highest balance either. But suffice to say, the new payment, which used to be $150, is now $450. We are breaking that up between the two pay periods each month, so $225. So hopefully that answers any of the questions that have come up before on how we're utilizing the extra money that we have in the budget by making these money moves. And if anybody does have any questions, absolutely note them below in the comments, and I try and get to them all and answer them all. So there's that. Okay. Back to the process. So $840 for the mortgage, that has not changed. Recurring monthly costs. So we were expecting to do $446.41 based on our standard recurring costs during this pay period. But we had a bit of an issue with the water bill, the dreaded water bill. If you saw our last video where we do the budget with me for this, the pay period after this, pay period number 2, 16th through the 29th, I go into detail about that. But the end result was we have shifted the payment for the water bill to the first pay period of the month. We are still breaking it up between the even and odd months. Even months are when the bill is actually due. Odd months, there is no payment due, but we are going to be paying in both. And we had issues, and so because of those issues, that's why it's now being calculated in the first pay period. Of course, we didn't know that that was going to be an issue when we were doing the budget process, so we do have a discrepancy here, and this amount ended up coming to $559.25, and that is because we ended up paying $112.85 that we weren't expecting to. Now, because of course I do all of this calculation stuff. If you've seen some of our older videos, you know I'm in my spreadsheet more than daily, and I live and breathe and eat all this process right now. So we do all these calculations, and so I do know that we also had an overage, a budget overage, that was not fully covered by our cash envelopes. As some of you know who have been watching my videos, I absolutely love gardening. Gardening season is very, very difficult for me. I have a little bit of trouble reining myself in where gardening is concerned. And unfortunately, I have already wiped out our cash envelope for gardening stuff. And we had a little bit of extra in our grocery because we didn't use all the groceries up. Used some of that. And, oh my gosh, this is super embarrassing. We had an additional $27.45 in costs that were not budgeted. So it's above budget or overage. You know, I am going to have to be very, very, very careful going forward because soil costs, starts, all of that stuff, they can be expensive and that can add up quickly. So if we go ahead and we take that information, 107.25, 500 plus 840 plus 559.25 plus the dreaded overage, we end up with $3,004.70. And if we subtract that from the $3736.15, our unallocated, oh, I should have put that here, unallocated amount is $731.45. How interesting. Okay, so for those who are familiar, I do like to keep a $200 buffer, which you know. For those who are new, now you do know. So that would drop this to $531.45. Because we are still, for this pay period, in the process of doing the building of our savings for the eventual job loss, my rule of keeping kind of round numbers still applies. So we transferred $525 to savings. So if we go ahead and take $525 from that, that leaves us with a rollover of $206.45. And we can see here that the expected buffer, expected amount for savings was going to be $650. Again, this was not taking into account that we would be paying the water bill early. There, now you can actually see it. And we had an expectation then, after all the calculations were done, of having $222.25 available to roll over into the next pay period, which is the pay period we're in now, the 16th through the 29th. Instead, we have $206.45. So, you know, not a terrible situation. The budget overage isn't, you know, too bad. We did utilize some of the stuff that we had saved in order to kind of mitigate some of the costs. Downside being that did wipe out those groups of money. So, we're going to have to figure out how we want to navigate this growing season going forward, especially if the job loss comes at a point where we haven't had an opportunity yet to kind of bulk up on supplies while we still do have like an allocated amount of money in the budget. So we'll have to figure that out. Credit cards. So right now, Bank of America is at $8,520, which is a reduction of $225. Now, some of these they're not going to be a surprise because we're in 0% promo. So the payment that is being made is the actual reduction, and we're not going to see an adjustment upwards that kind of eliminates some of the impact of the payment that's being made. So same thing for Citi, it's $72.25 now, which is a reduction of $100. The loan from my mother, we are at $1,499, which is a reduction of $250. The newest card is at $13,295. I do not enjoy saying that number, 13,000, but that is a reduction of $175. And then the Discover bill is at $10,281.72. And there is no change on that because this does not actually get its payment until this second pay period in February, which we're in right now. And it is also the only card we have left that has interest that is currently applying. All the rest of these, 1, 2, 3, are on 0% promos. However, if we do not pay these balances off before that promo is over, we will be annihilated by interest that has been accruing throughout this time. So we are looking to avoid that. Now, I think that's pretty much it. That kind of shows you where we thought we were going to go, where we ended up going, and a little bit of the progress that we're making on the debt side. The other piece of this is, as of this pay period, this savings transfer, the $100 savings transfer that is involved with the monthly costs, and the $185 sinking fund savings amount associated with some of this cash envelope money, we have met the goal that we put out for ourselves for how much money we want to have saved between our actual savings dollars that are in our savings account, plus the PTO payment that I should get once my job is gone, plus the severance that I should get once the job is gone. So when we add those three calculations up, we have met that goal. So technically, starting this pay period, the 16th through the 29th, anything that we have that lands in unallocated would now be eligible to be utilized for additional debt reduction. Now, if you saw the previous video that we just did, the budget with me, then you know that we're not going to go full bore on just transferring all of this to the credit card debt. We are going to still continue to include some savings, simply because I don't believe you can be too secure in the situation that we are in. The more we bulk up that savings, obviously the longer I have to try and find a job once the job goes away. And if I happen to find a job quickly, then there's the more money we just have in a lump sum in savings that we can then apply wholesale on some of this debt. We are still, however, we will be utilizing this for debt reduction as well. It'll just be, we're going to do a percentage towards debt and a percentage to continue to go to savings. So that's where we are. That is the recap for the first pay period of February, the 1st through the 15th. If you have any questions, please note those below. Suggestions, ideas, thoughts, things like that. Absolutely note those down below as well. I do try to make sure I read every single comment and reply or respond in some fashion. If I have missed you, I do apologize. I am utilizing the YouTube, channel owner thing, and so if it happens to filter something out, then I might miss a comment, and so I am sorry if that ends up being the case. We are going to leave it at that, I think. Thank you very, very much for watching. As always, you are appreciated. I am still flabbergasted that there are as many folks out there as have been watching the videos and who have subscribed that are interested in seeing, what we're doing and how we're getting along. So thank you very, very much. On that note, we'll see you in the next one.